Hi and welcome to another edition of OnsideSA, the soccer show that gives you all the news, all the info, and it's countdown time. We're 2 days away from the start of the Premier League. The championship, let's get that right, the championship starts on Friday at Watford. Budge, you've had a good look at everything.
Yeah.
It's great to be back.
Yeah, definitely, Paul. Yeah, a lot of last-minute signings, so to take the early season bets, I'd hold on for a week or two, but it's hotting up, Paul.
Just talking about holding on for a week or two, Budge, we've pushed forward the last
one standings next week, Paul.
Because the Manchester team is playing this weekend.
Yeah, and also give the guys a chance to have a look at the,
avoid those Burnley 3, Chelsea 2 opening matches. So that's it. So guys, don't forget the last one standing. We're going for a bigger and better squad. The last winners, it's Gary Green and his mate.
Gary Green, Vivian Woodley won it, but Gary's on the coattails.
They're going to go watch Southampton play Liverpool.
There's one game 3rd of January and there's the other one at end of May.
There you go. So that's one of our winners from last time. Don't forget George Salensis, one of our winners, a Liverpool fan, went to go and watch Liverpool beat Barcelona 4-0 at Liverpool. Game of his life. We'd all like to have been there, even if we supported Dortmund. Right. Budge, Stevie B. Let's see if we can get hold of Stevie B in London. Stevie, are you on the line?
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning, Steve. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Excellent. And how's your weather? Still warm?
It is. We've got a bit of an Indian summer. The next few days are going to be pretty warm, and then into autumn.
In the monsoon arrives.
Yeah, the fast monsoon for 3 months.
Steve, talking of monsoons, the British teams were woeful. How did you see?
They were. They really were. In fact, Wales had a couple of wins, didn't play, but the rest, compared to some of the others in Europe, who I watched some of the other games, played very well. Yeah. I thought they were all poor. I mean, England particularly, really, just didn't have much imagination at all.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think the cause of...
Sorry, Steve, I was going to ask you, with regard to, I don't know if you got the answer, the Harry Maguires and the 2 youngsters who were sent home, what type of punishment would they be getting?
I don't think we'll know necessarily what happens to the 2 young boys at their clubs. I think they will be punished by their clubs for letting the clubs down. Yes. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if they are not picked for the next squad in October. Otherwise, missing one game is not punishment enough, I think, for what they did.
And Maguire, the appeal, is that the decider?
With the appeal, that could go on a very long time. So I think Harry Maguire will, assuming that his head is in the right place and he's back playing for United, I think he will certainly get picked in the next England squad.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. I just don't think Southgate can afford to leave Greenwood and Foden out. Having watched them, and they've got Belgium the next game, so he's going to have to pick his best team.
He would necessarily be starting. So if he's got his other players fit, but I think that. I think they might have to be seen to be punished because otherwise,
you've got to lay down. So, I hear you. There has to be something.
I think that, and the Nations League itself, that's not the be all and end all. It's obviously we're in the Championship, so I'd be surprised if they're not dropped for at least one more game.
Yeah, I think it's the right way. Talking of ship, Steve, Premiership starts this weekend.
Yes.
How many decent signings have gone through in the last few days?
Doherty.
There's been a few, but it's still, I think because we've gone back to, as we were a few years ago, when the transfer window is still open at the beginning of the season. So you haven't got that mad sort of dash to get everything done in the next couple of days. And in fact, as I say, we know we have until October 5th before the window shuts. Okay. For any sort of sales of players between the Premiership clubs and overseas. So, and a case in point would be, say, Jadon Sancho.
Yeah.
The news broke last night and seemed to be making a big thing about it, saying that United have agreed personal terms with Jadon Sancho and his advisors. Now, whether they're leaking that to almost say to Dortmund, look, your player wants to come, let's now spend the next few weeks doing a deal. Yeah. But they really did make a big thing about it in the press in the early hours. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, and I'm sure there's a deal to be done there.
Yeah, it just amazes me. Why stall it? The league starts for United next week. There's Europe. Why not just get it over the line? Even if it is 100, just pay the money.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen before with teams. I mean, if teams have a really bad start, and let's say, they probably won't, but let's say United found themselves 9 points behind after 3 or 4 games.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they're playing catch up to with the big two. Yeah. So I think they need to hit the ground. Teams need to hit the ground running. It's going to be tight again this season.
Yeah, I agree. Steve, talking about tight, let's hope your boys Fulham keep it tight tomorrow against Arsenal. On Saturday. You think you got a chance?
Yeah. I think that we're probably. We are a few signings short still. Yeah. We brought in a goalkeeper last night, Alphonse Areola from PSG, who was their number 2 goalie. He was on loan at Real Madrid last year, played a number of games for them. So I think he's being brought in with a view to becoming our number 1. Yeah. But I think that it would be a very hard task against Arsenal. I was very impressed with Arsenal in the Community Shield, so I think that would be a hard task for us to get anything.
Okay, talking a hard task, Crystal Palace ended the season terribly. How do you see them going against Southampton?
Well, not only that, they've got quite a few injuries. I was looking at their team news. They've got quite a few injuries. So I think the best to get out of that might be a draw. But Southampton finished strongly. They were very good away from home, and Danny Ings will probably want to try and start off as he left off. So I think you're looking at possibly a draw or even an away win there.
Okay, now one team I've been reading, the Vultures seem to be out at West Ham for the owners. They've sold their young striker. I think it's Diangana. How do you think they'll go?
Well, it's interesting because Diangana was on loan at West Brom last year, where he went. But very strange, Mark Noble, the club captain, came out and actually made a comment about that, which I'm sure didn't go down well. There's no love lost between the fans and the owners, there's no question. But basically, apart from making Thomas Soucek's loan permanent, they haven't done any business. So, the fans are very restless, and on the basis that, they did struggle last season and, all right, hoiked their way out because of some good form from Mikel Antonio at the end. Yeah. I can't see them sort of doing much again this year if they don't, sort of bring the strength of the side. So I think there's going to be a tough game. Newcastle actually have brought a few players in, obviously that take a while for them to gel, but they've got Callum Wilson and Ryan Fraser up front who have played together. I don't know if Ryan Fraser will be match fit because he didn't play at all during the lockdown period. And a young fullback from Norwich, Jamal Lewis, who's quite highly rated. So I think there'll be a tight game, first one up, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if Newcastle pinch a point there.
Okay, West Brom, although were disappointing to the end of the championship, can you see them upsetting Leicester?
I mean, again, it's home first game, but I think Leicester really, they stuttered a bit themselves, and I think Brendan Rodgers will want to get them fired up. I think they're still without James Maddison. I don't think he's available, but otherwise, and I don't think they've got their new left back will be in place yet. But otherwise, I think they might just be a little bit too strong for West Brom.
Okay, now how will James Rodriguez go against Tottenham at the new White Hart Lane Stadium?
That's going to be very interesting. I think that Ancelotti really has been backed by the owners. Yeah. The three midfielders of Allen, James Rodriguez, and bringing in Doucouré as well. Yeah. But obviously they've only just come, so whether or not he could risk starting with many of them. And they do have 1 or 2 injuries, Everton, so I think there'll be a tight game, but I think they'll have a decent season. But Tottenham have got to hit the ground running. They haven't brought much in, obviously Højbjerg and Doherty, but otherwise it's going to be pretty much more of what we had before from them. So solid start. I think Everton probably be happy with a point there first game up.
Right, my boys, Stevie, we'll come away with a 2-0 win. You heard it here first. We didn't bring many players in. We brought obviously the English goalie and Doherty and Højbjerg, but we've got players. We've got quality players. Song, Moura, and Ali.
You're right. I think they start off well. Obviously, if Son and Kane start off together well. Yeah. I think Dele Alli needs to find a bit more form. He needs to get, obviously he's out of the England reckoning at the moment, so he really needs to step up his game and get himself back in. So, you don't always know what you're going to get with Tottenham, but I think I think
at home they should be competitive.
For them to get into the top four, these are the sort of games they're going to have to win.
Yeah, agreed. Steve, on to the championship. Obviously, your Fulham boys left it last season.
Thankfully.
Kicks off on Friday. What is the latest with Watford? What is your brother...
Well, I mean, Watford have actually got a real injury crisis. I mean, they've got so many players out, at the beginning of the season. Plus, you've obviously got the uncertainty with Sarr and Deeney, who both effectively want to leave. They've got a lot of players out, and I fancied them as obviously one of the teams certainly going to be favourites to go up. They've got still a relatively strong squad, but on the opening game they've got a lot of players out. I read they've got up to something like 10, 11 players out or unavailable on the first game, which is, crazy for the first game of the season. So I think that'll be a tough game. Obviously, you've got Neil Warnock at Middlesbrough. Yeah, good
promotion record.
He's going to make them hard to beat. So on paper, you would have fancied Watford, but I think this would be closer. It's the opening game tomorrow night on TV.
Yeah, no, we've got it, fortunately.
Which game is that? Watford?
That's Watford Middlesbrough.
Okay.
Yeah, the other game we've got on, I've got a funny feeling there's going to be an upset. Birmingham host Brentford. How do you see that going?
Yeah, I mean, I watched the Brentford Wycombe Wanderers game in the Cup last weekend, and Wycombe were very unlucky. They had a player sent off, but actually, over the 90 minutes, I thought they were the better side. I mean, Brentford have obviously lost Ollie Watkins, just sold, and Ben Rama hasn't featured as they're looking to try and offload him and get some money. They brought in Ivan Toney, who was the league top scorer in League One from Peterborough, who's a good player. And they're obviously looking at him to replace Watkins. But otherwise, the squad isn't that much different. So, whether or not they can just sort of put what happened to them behind them last season and sort of move on. Birmingham really had a very poor end to the season last season. So I'm not sure that they're going to do a lot this year. I think Brentford will probably be disappointed if they don't start off with a win. Okay,
now one team, Bournemouth. Yeah, they were disappointing, obviously, to get relegated. How do you think they'll start their season?
I think they'll do well. I mean, I think that obviously they've lost Callum Wilson and likely to lose Josh King. But they've still got quite a few players who Premiership players and players. Some of their older players have actually played in the Championship before. So I think they've kept the bulk of the squad intact. They haven't brought much in. Obviously, I think the Championship teams, they've got to sell first, raise some money, and then they'll see what they've got available. So if they sell Josh King, they've sold Callum Wilson, likely to sell Brooks, then I think they'll strengthen in the next few weeks. But I fancy them to start with a home win. Okay, now Cardiff played great in the playoffs. Obviously, they didn't go through. You think they'll get off to a winning start against Sheffield Wednesday? I think they will, but very strange. I don't know if you saw, there was a press release from Cardiff yesterday to say that they terminated the contract of Nathaniel Mendes-Lang. No explanation. He's still under contract, and they terminated it. So the Cardiff fans are very concerned because he was one of their star players. So all I understand is there was a breach of contract, and they wouldn't say what it was. So that's probably not the sort of thing that you need going into the season. Sheffield Wednesday, on the other hand, they've still got a decent squad, but they start off on minus 12 points. Wow. They were penalised. And in fact, to a certain extent, they were fortunate because if that would have applied to last season, they would have got relegated. So they start off with minus 12. They've still got a decent squad on paper. So I think they have to sort of start quite well, otherwise they could find themselves really adrift at one point.
Basically, Steve, they've given away the first 4 games.
The 4 games short.
If they won the first 4, they'd only be starting game
0.
They'd start 0, but I think psychologically, if they got some wins in the bag early on,
they'd be fine.
They start badly and they find themselves, like Bolton did last. They find themselves, say, 15 points behind or 18 points behind. It's quite hard to catch up. So, I think there'll be a tight game. I think Cardiff did do well in the playoffs. Obviously, they lost to Fulham, but they played very well in the second game.
They're very well.
Cardiff are favourites, but it's going to be interesting to see whether or not that they can sort of put a run together like they did at the end of last season.
Okay, now one team in Derby County. I actually thought they'd get into the playoffs. It took 9-1 get off to a winning start against Reading under a new manager?
You would expect them to, but then Derby have just sold two of their young up-and-coming players, Jaden Bogle and Max Lowe. Okay. And they haven't really and sold Chris Martin to Bristol City. Haven't really brought anybody in of any note. They did falter at the end of last season. They really had a very poor end of the season. It's going to be interesting to see whether Rooney plays much, whether he's just going to have a coaching role. He didn't play last weekend, and they were pretty poor at home to Barrow in the Cup. Went scraped through on penalties. They should win. I mean, Reading are not particularly strong, but again, I think a lot of pressure on Derby. They were quite fortunate that they could have found themselves 12 points adrift as well with FFP, and the league have appealed because they still think that there's a case to answer. So they're under a bit of pressure. If they lost that case, because there is an appeal, and they got minus 12 points, they're going to have to really go some. So I think a home win, but I'm not sure they're a playoff material this year.
Okay, one team I'm hoping a playoff material is Preston North End. How do you think we'll go at home against Swansea?
Yeah, I mean, they had a good win in the Cup last week. I mean, obviously, we said that, Mansfield hadn't played, but it was a good win. And I think they did well in pre-season. So Swansea will obviously be disappointed, sort of lost out on the playoff semi-final. Yeah. They've kept the bulk of their squad. Except obviously their loanees, Rian Brewster and Conor Gallagher, have gone back. So it's hard to know quite how strong they're going to be. I think Preston, as they did last year, they started really well at home, particularly, and I think maybe they'll do the same. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if they might catch Swansea on the day.
Okay, and last but not least, Steve, Huddersfield against the promotion favourites Norwich City.
Yeah, I mean, Norwich obviously have lost one or two players, but they've kept a lot of the squad intact. I think one or two still may go. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how Daniel Farke can get them up again. Obviously, they lost, they had a shocking run at the end of the lockdown, lost every game. Right. I think that they'd want to go. The Huddersfield are in a bit of flux as well. They've to get players off the wage bill, they've let a number of players go. I think there'll be a tight game, but I think if Norwich want to go back up, this is the sort of game they need to win.
All right, Stephen. Last but not least, I need your best bet and your best value.
I'm going to go for Bournemouth. I just think that they've still got a fairly strong squad, and I think they want to have any aspirations of going back up.
Who's in charge there?
Yeah, what was the assistant's name that took over there from Eddie Howe?
Tyndall.
Yeah, that's right. I think it was Ian Tyndall, correct. Okay.
He's got he's obviously got the backing of the board, and the players know him.
Yeah.
If they don't, I think unfortunately it's a sort of promotion for him that if they don't start well,
he's going to be gone. Yeah.
So it was a bit of a no-lose situation for the club, because if it works out well, then they're happy, and if it doesn't, it hasn't really cost them much, and they'll bring somebody else in. But but they still got. When I looked at their squad, they still got. They actually they had a very good win. I know these games are only pre-season, but they won 5-3 at West Ham last weekend.
Okay.
And you looked at the teams. West Ham played pretty much their available first team. And Bournemouth scored 5 goals and played very well. So I think they'll look to hit the ground running.
And your value bet?
I'm going to go for Wycombe Wanderers. I was really impressed with them. They work hard. They've got a good manager, Gareth Ainsworth, and they haven't got many stars, but they work really hard. And they're playing Rotherham, who they went up with. But I think Wycombe will be too strong.
All right,
Stevie B, your little beauty.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Start studying next week's fixtures for last one standing. Your track record's magnificent.
I never go very far in that, but hopefully there'll be a banker in there for me.
I've got a funny feeling you're never going to you'll be out before you've used Fulham in your selections.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I don't know.
You never know.
Let's see who we sign in the next week or two.
All right, Stevie, all the best, and thanks very much.
Steve.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Great pundit, eh?
Yeah, Paul does his homework.
Does his homework, knows the facts, got everything there, He's just, the more you can listen to Steve, the better it is. Let's go with the Premiership. We've touched on Fulham. How do you see it?
I can't have them. This thing, Arsenal, just the way it's gone. Yeah, I think it's 6-10.
Has Lacazette left?
No, he's still there.
Still there. So I'm going to put markings on what you like. You like
yeah,
Arsenal.
Paul, you know, I looked at it, 5-10 looks a good thing. You know, Fulham are in transition. I saw 15-10 Arsenal to win by more than 1 goal. I fancy that.
If it's at home, I'd definitely do that.
Yeah, you know, but no fans,
Fulham
different
get
story.
one, they close the box, I don't know.
Yeah, we went Fulham both teams.
Headbutting a few guys.
You know, Arsenal always concede. It was 24-10, Paul, Arsenal to win, both teams to score. So that's the bet that I like in that particular game. But I fancy Arsenal.
I'm worried about Palace, Budge.
Paul, they've got 1 point from the last 8 league games, struggling to score, but they normally start off okay. You know, just that the pressure's going to come on Roy Hodgson. They haven't really bought many players. But if Cahill's injury-free at the back, Paul, they'll keep it tight. But I was really impressed with Southampton.
Me too.
Only lost one of the last 9. I like that manager, Paul. He's due for a bigger club.
Yeah. Who you tipping?
Paul, I think it's Southampton. Could draw Southampton for me there, Paul.
No, we're only giving you one selection. Okay, West Ham.
Paul, I was all over West Ham. You know, Newcastle haven't really bought too many players. The goalkeeper, Dubravka, I think he's Slovakian. He's injured, but I like that Alex. I think it's Saint Martin, the guy up front.
He's a good player.
He's back. You know, if he's fit, he'll be a threat. I was all over West Ham, Paul, but there's trouble in the camp there.
So we go draw?
You know, a draw for me there. But West Ham, I fancy West Ham. But with the trouble in the camp, and Steve alluded to it, Mark Noble was cursing and swearing at the owners for selling the young striker.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
They haven't brought anybody in, so you just don't know. Fortunately for West Ham.
So West Ham sold a young striker?
Yeah, when he was on loan at West Brom, they were hoping to bring him back, and they sold him. West Brom bought him.
Okay. Leeds United got a daunting task.
Paul, you know, Liverpool, you can see, I saw them standing there after they got beaten at the Charity Shield. Yeah. They weren't happy, but respectful. I think they're going to come out firing, Paul.
Yeah, the bucket man in charge
of Leeds. The bucket man, it doesn't matter who's in charge of Leeds. You know,
yeah, this is a tough one.
-1 is 8-10, Paul. I fancy Liverpool all day. Get on. They're going to start firing, Paul.
They will score.
For the last 26 games at home, they've drawn 1. They won 25.
Great record.
Best home record.
Okay, West Brom. Now they're in the big sides. They play Leicester City, who are top 6 side.
Yeah, you know, I was hoping Maddison would be fit. You know,
is Vardy there?
Paul, they're my best bet of the weekend, Leicester.
Leicester, okay.
Yeah. You know, West Brom, I watched them towards the end. They drew 4 and lost 1. They shouldn't have gone up automatically. They were woeful.
Woeful, that's
true. But I can't have them. They haven't signed many players. Even the youngsters not going to hit the ground running in the Premiership.
But they're the Hawthorns.
Hawthorns, yeah. I actually went to there. It is the Hawthorns. The Baggies is the nickname. Slaven Bilic is there. Yeah. But Leicester, Paul.
Slaven Bilic is a West Ham man.
West Ham man, the Croatian. For me, even money's 9.5 to 10. I think certainty's Leicester.
Okay, now Tottenham Everton's going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
You know, all this all or nothing videos going around. Everyone's starting to look at the way Tottenham does things, but Ancelotti spent well, I think.
You know, Paul, are they fit and ready to go? I think they're.
They've got to. You got to be good in this league too.
Yeah.
It's all good and well. We brought in. We got Ndombele.
Yeah.
You know, he just hasn't fired.
Yeah.
And he's probably the highest rated midfielder at Spurs, so he can't get a game.
Yeah. Now I like Spurs, Paul. Harry Kane. You know, he's a little bit sluggish for England, but you know, give him a chance or two, he'll score
at home.
Paul, it's a tricky game. Remember last year, Spurs won 1-0. It was really a dire game. Ancelotti, this will be a tight game, Paul. The draw at 27-10, looks the right way to go. But of the two teams, I fancy Spurs, Paul.
Okay, Brighton at home. Not the worst team, but in come the big rollers, Chelsea.
Chelsea, well, how many more players can you sign?
Brighton were lauded last year, Budge, for their ability to go out and play attractive football after Chris Hughton.
Yeah.
Now, they've got a situation here where don't be too attractive against these boys.
Yeah, I think
Chelsea will slaughter you.
Well, I fancy Chelsea.
Yeah.
But Chelsea conceded the second most goals in the league last year. I couldn't believe that when I saw that. But I think they'll win, Chelsea, Paul. I like them to score in both halves at 15-10. 6-10 looks a good price. You know, without the fans, Paul, there's no major advantage, even though it is your stadium. But I like that Graham Potter at Brighton. I think they'll score, but Chelsea should be too strong.
I was just watching this show I'm telling you about, the Spurs
show.
The game I went to, Mourinho had 3 games. He won them all. Scored 13, conceded 6.
Yeah.
And then they had to go to beat Chelsea to get up tie with them in the Champions League. And as I went to the game, and watching it again, we started very well, and Willian bent one in the 1-0 up. Gazzaniga took out the striker,
for the
penalty 2-0 down. We came back, should have been 2-1. And then Son got sent off for
That's right, with a tackle he kicked.
I was at that game, and that centre-half, Rudiger, claimed there were racial slurs, you know.
Okay.
I heard nothing. I heard nothing. You know, this subsequently proved that there was nothing. You know, an inquiry. But that was the game that put us back down. You know, but I agree. But Chelsea are good.
But Paul, at the back is a trick. They've never been good.
Who would they be
Thiago
playing?
Silva, he'll play it with Rudiger. Those would be the two. Maybe Zuma at the back. You don't know.
Will they play Zuma?
Yeah, he's a good player, Paul. You just don't know on the fitness of the guys. But Thiago Silva and another.
Wolves will be wanting to go into the same vein as last year.
Paul, I think Wolves are going to have a good season. They're out of Europe.
They both had good seasons last year.
Yeah, Sheffield United towards the end, Paul, they seem to falter. But at home, I think they only lost one of their last 7 or 8. I like Wolves, Paul.
Okay.
You know, 14-10. The only thing is they did get beat by Seville, which everybody did. But I like Wolves, top 6, top 4. I think without Europe, I'm taking 20-1 them to win the League Cup, Paul. Because I think they'll have a full dip at it. That's
have a dip at the Championship.
Yeah, Paul, obviously with all the signings, it is going to be difficult. It does kick off on Friday. Grant Crawshaw told me, whatever you do, you follow Neil Warnock in the Championship. When he got to Middlesbrough, I didn't fancy them, and they had a great finish. Paul, they've won 5 and lost 1 of their last 6. Depends on Watford. You know, Steve, his brother told him a lot of injuries.
Will they be playing those guys who won a clearance? The Troy Deeney's and that right
Well, he's
winger.
injured. I think Troy Deeney's
and the right winger is a good player.
If they've got injuries, you know, I would play them. You've got to play them to try and come back up. If they play, Paul, they should win. But if they don't play, and as Steve alluded to, they've got a lot of injuries.
So
Draw's a big player for me there.
Yeah, that's right. Birmingham City, Brentford,
Paul, Birmingham played Spurs. Now, I know Aitor Karanka was Mourinho's assistant at Real Madrid. Mourinho came out and said Birmingham played great. They should have beat Spurs. I think Spurs beat them 2-1 in the friendly. Brentford, Paul, I know they're a buying and selling club, but major disappointment losing in the final. I can see an upset here, Paul. I know Birmingham at home are terrible, but it's the first game up. New manager. Yeah. Don't be surprised, win and draw there, Paul. Okay. Birmingham, I smell an upset. Wickham, well, we haven't seen. They both got promoted. Now, Wickham got promoted, ironically, on the points per game. They played 3 or 4 games less than everybody, and because of the points per game, they finished 3rd. So that's how they got promoted. There were no so Wickham, they finished in the playoff. They were 8th. And because of the points per game, they finished 6th. And they ended up getting promoted by the playoffs.
Okay, got you. That makes sense.
Rotherham, they came up. That's Paul Warne's team.
This got a draw written all over the first game.
Paul, as Steve said, Wickham played great against Brentford. That's his each-way team. So
so he's going for that.
Wickham and a draw, though, would be my normal call.
Bournemouth down the league should beat Blackburn.
They should, Paul, but you keep losing these players, and when you watch the Premiership and you watch the Championship, Blackburn are going to give them a game here, Paul. Yeah, Tony Mowbray, he's no mug.
So who would you tip?
I think it's a draw, Paul, 24-10. These teams that are close, Paul, come back down. The first game's always the upset weekend.
Always.
Bournemouth still think they're playing Man United, the Premiership teams.
Yeah, that's right. Now, how about Barnsley and Luton Town? Well, 21st and 19th.
Luton were escape artists last year. The guy came back from Swansea, Nathan Jones. They only lost one of the last couple of weeks. They did great. Paul, I fancy Luton of the 2 teams. They're my best value bet.
Sometimes up, sometimes down.
Vince Jansen's Mad Hatters, Luton Town,
Okay, here we go. Bristol
City, Paul. At home they were woeful last year. Coventry came up, great away record. The guy that reportedly saved Fergie's job, Mark Robbins, remember the blonde striker?
Yeah, I sure do.
Yeah, win and draw for me, Coventry, Paul. It's a 1-2-3 game in a lot of the championships. If I've got to side for a team, I'm siding with the Sky Blues.
Okay, Cardiff you like?
I like Cardiff to beat Sheffield Wednesday, Paul. They played great. They're unlucky in the playoff against Fulham. Yeah, they could have sneaked in.
Yeah. Tell me, Derby County, they still got Rooney?
Yeah, he's still there, Paul. Yeah, they drew with Barrow. But, the League Cup, a lot of these guys lost interest in the League Cup, Paul. They're trying to first, there's normally played in the 2nd, 3rd week of the league. This was played prior to the league. Yeah. But I think Derby will beat Reading. Mark
Reading
was a manager. He got fired. Don't know why, because he kept them up. But Derby, minus 12 points. I think they'll get a result.
Huddersfield?
Paul, Norwich are tipped everywhere to come straight back up. I know they've sold a few players. Timmy Pukki's still there. But Huddersfield's a tight pitch, Paul. Like we said, with
the other teams. 2 years ago, they were in the Premier League.
Yeah, they'll be a game, but it should be Norwich, Paul. But I just don't trust them. Let's see them get back to winning form.
They played some attractive football, even when they went out.
Yeah, that was their problem. But,
that's right.
Win and draw Norwich for me there, Paul.
Millwall, Stoke?
Paul, I think Stoke will have a good season, but Millwall at the Den, don't get beat too often. So it's a 1, 2, 3 in your exotics, but Millwall of the two.
Your beloved?
I think Preston will murder Swansea, Paul. You know, we we got beat 2-0 by full-strength Everton. We drew with Burnley, drew with Sheffield United. You know, we normally start off quick, good young team. Quickly, sorry. I think we'll beat Swansea, 14-10.
QPR, Notts Forest.
Forest buried me last year. They got beaten the last game. Otherwise, they'd have been in the playoffs. Yeah, QPR sold their main young striker to Crystal Palace. So it should be Nottingham Forest, Paul, but I think both teams have scores to play in that game.
Okay, let's talk about the Nedbank Cup final. Just talk about the league for a moment. Chiefs threw it away.
Paul, I watched the game, set piece. I think Chiefs lost the league because there was no supporters there. You know, the intimidation from the fans.
They lost 5 games, were poor.
Well, they were terrible. And then they got beat 1-0 by Sundowns in the do-or-die game.
Yes.
But I didn't really want Sundowns to win the league, but, you know, good luck to them. They won 4 the last 5. But Chiefs threw it away.
Will
Middendorf, he's got it.
Middendorf, isn't chance Hunt Conan?
Well, he's the right guy. I spoke to Neil Tovey at Bugsy Saunders' birthday. I said, what do you think? He's still in contact with Kaiser. He's got no say. But they've got to consider Gavin.
Yeah,
Gavin or Eric Tinker, those would be the two that the fans would respect. But he's got to come in now.
Gavin deserves it, sure. And Tinker's doing a good job.
Top manager, him, Paul.
Right, let's look at the Bloom Celtic playing against Mamelodi Sundowns.
Paul, you know, I hope Celtic, but Sundowns are a top team, Paul. Now they won the league, they got through the back door, the confidence will be a band. You know, the draw, I don't know what Pizzo's going to do, whether he's going to rest his main boys and give a few younger guys a chance.
There's money involved here,
big money here, sure. Yeah, I don't, you know, 9-10 looks the right play, Paul, but, you know, 9-10 both teams to score is what I went for.
Okay, let's look at yours, the soccer pools, but give me your thinking here.
Yeah, Soccer 6, obviously, on Saturday, you know, this one, obviously, English and Championship. I think Arsenal will be too good for Fulham. I sense an upset in the Birmingham City-Brentford game. I'm going with Wickham to avoid defeat at home against Rotherham. Another game, Paul, it's a 1-2-3, but I'm chancing a draw on Blackburn Rovers. I don't see Millwall losing at home to Stoke City, and neither do I see Norwich City losing at Huddersfield Town 192. On to the second one, I've gone win and draw Southampton. I've gone West Ham win and draw at home against Newcastle. I'm going Derby County win and draw at home against Reading. I'm also throwing the draw in with Cardiff City at home with Sheffield Wednesday. I don't see Sundowns losing in 90 minutes against Bloemfontein Celtic, and I think Liverpool will be too strong for Leeds, Paul. Throwing a few draws, looking for the upsets.
Give us your 10.
On to the 10, I'm going Southampton, win and draw at Crystal Palace. I'm going West Ham, win and draw at home against Newcastle. I'm going the field, looking for the upset in the Bournemouth versus Blackburn Rovers clash. Bankered Cardiff City to beat Sheffield Wednesday. Likewise, Derby County to beat Reading. A second page, I'm signing with Norwich City to avoid defeat at Huddersfield. I'm going the field in the Millwall Huddersfield fixture. Millwall Stoke City fixture. I'm bankering Preston to beat Swansea. I've thrown the draw in with Mamelodi and Bloemfontein Celtic, and bankered Liverpool to beat Leeds 288.
All right, the big dog.
Now on to the 13, Paul. Another carryover this week. I'm bankering Liverpool to beat Sheffield. Liverpool to beat Leeds United.
When you say a carrier, what type of money are we talking?
Well, that's 5 million carried over, Paul. So the pool will be 25 around there, 25
That's
million.
massive money.
Massive money,
Massive
Paul.
money, yeah.
We'll bank Liverpool to beat Leeds. I don't see Southampton losing at Crystal Palace. Had to find another banker, so I've chanced West Ham to beat Newcastle. I've gone with Luton Town, win and draw at Barnsley. I've gone with Blackburn Rovers, win and draw at Bournemouth. Likewise, Coventry City, win and draw at Bristol City. I've bankered Cardiff to beat Sheffield Wednesday. I've bankered Derby to beat Reading. I don't see Norwich City losing at Huddersfield Town. I've gone Millwall, win and draw at home against Stoke City. I've bankered Preston to beat Swansea. I don't see Nottingham Forest losing at QPR. And I'm bankering Degerfors to beat Jan Kopping Sodra in the Super 8 game, 256.
And what's the closest you've got?
12 out of 9, 12 out of 13s, Paul. But,
okay.
Only one I caught paid bones, but
bones.
Anyway,
let's look at your best bets.
Yeah, Paul. Obviously, we kick off in the Premiership. I've gone Arsenal to beat Fulham and both teams to score. I think Leicester will be too good for West Brom, and I fancy Chelsea to go on a goal spree. Chelsea to score in both halves against Brighton on Monday, 2,800 to 200. On to the Championship. I've gone Cardiff to beat Sheffield Wednesday. I think my boys Preston will beat Swansea. And I'm going win and draw. Birmingham City at home against Brentford, and Luton Town away against Barnsley. 2,900 to 200. Our goals team, I think Arsenal will score over 1.5 goals against Fulham. I think Leicester will score over 1.5 goals against West Brom. And I fancy Preston to score over 1.5 goals against Swansea. Liverpool, I've got to score over 2.5 goals against Leeds.
So it's nothing to do with the opposition, just those teams.
Those teams have to score.
Okay, both teams to score now.
Both teams. I've gone Palace, Southampton. I've gone Bournemouth, Blackburn. I've gone Huddersfield, Norwich. QPR, Notts Forest. And I think there'll be goals in our cup final, Paul. Bloemfontein, Celtic and Sundowns. 3,000 to 200. I've had to go to the Bundesliga because there weren't many games in Spain. I've gone Eintracht Frankfurt to win against newly promoted Arminia Bielefeld. I fancy Hertha Berlin to beat Werder Bremen. And I've gone over 2.5 goals in the Dortmund Borussia Mönchengladbach on Wolfsburg versus Bayer Leverkusen games. 10 to 1, 2,200. And our Collis King 6 or Nixer, I've gone Arsenal to beat Fulham. Chelsea to beat Brighton. Leicester to beat West Brom. Preston to beat Swansea. Villarreal to beat Huesca. And Eintracht Frankfurt to beat Arminia Bielefeld. 4,000 to 200.
Okay, that's very interesting. But give us your best bets.
Paul, I've gone for Leicester. You know, I know Maddison may not play, but I just think they'll have too much. I watched West Brom get promoted. They were woeful, Paul. They shouldn't have come up. Leicester can't beat them. I think they'll be fresh at a disastrous ending, but I think they'll start off flying.
And your value?
I went for Luton Town, Paul. 5 to 2 against Barnsley.
You're hoping they're bringing last season's form.
You know, Barnsley sneaked in against Brentford the last game. That's what kept them up. But Luton, they were impressed towards the end, Paul. Good manager Nathan Jones. I think 5 to 2, Paul. I think it's 8 to 10 win and draw, but 5 to 2 looks value.
Well, we got, that's interesting. There we go. Don't forget the Premier League starts on Saturday. The Championship on Friday. Last one standing starts next week on the 19th.
Next weekend.
Next week on the 19th, because Man United and Man City will be back in the fray. They're not playing this weekend. And watch the cup final here locally. And I think Sundowns, good things. Till next time, stay on side.